What's up guys, Mike here, the Detroit Borg, and recently I reviewed LG's ultra-fine 5K displays and I configured them in a 2-display setup. Although I like that screen real estate of multiple displays, it's not always the most comfortable setup to use. This is where LG's Curved UltraWide display becomes a really interesting solution. It provides far more horizontal screen real estate for productivity without adding multiple monitors. And since you're sitting so close to the monitor, the curve of the display actually adds some benefits to the user experience. Now, the version I'm taking a look at today is the 38-inch UC99 with a 21:9 aspect ratio, so this is a huge monitor. Now, this retails for around $14.99 and features a USB Type-C connector, which makes it a great display for the latest MacBook Pro. So when it comes to the unboxing, this is a very large monitor, so there are some handling instructions in the top of the box, which explains how to best set this up, and we're going to go through that here. So next up in the top of the box is the accessories, which we'll get to in just a moment. We also have our stand. So this is the foot or base of the stand, which is curved to the shape of the monitor. So next up, if we look down into the box, you'll see that very distinctive curved shape of the monitor, in addition to a piece of styrofoam, which they want us to use to protect the display when we install the stand. Digging into the accessories, the first thing we'll see here is lots of paperwork and an installation CD, which you probably will not need. We also get a full set of matching white cables, including our power cable, HDMI, DisplayPort, and USB Type-C cable. Also included is a very large external power supply, which keeps the heat away from the monitor and allows it to be very thin. Also thrown in here is a USB Type-A to USB Type-C adapter, which is nice to have. So when it comes to assembling the base, it's pretty basic. All I have to do is join them together, and toward the bottom you'll see these little toggle screws that allow you to screw these in without any tools. So when it comes to installing the stand, they do want us to lay the monitor face down, and they want us to use the styrofoam to protect the screen from scratching. I'm also going to leave the plastic on it so I don't scratch anything up. So once I get everything into place, the stand just slots in and snaps into place. Now, if you want to use a VESA mount, this is a 100mm VESA mount, so you can attach this instead of the stand that's included. So once everything is assembled, I can go ahead and upright the monitor and pull off all the plastic and styrofoam protecting it. Now this is a really good looking display, especially in my setup. I have this very large desk and I really like how this kind of fills it out. It's also got a very thin bezel along the sides, and I really like this matte screen, which means it's less reflective, which is important in my setup because I film here. The back of the display is very minimal. It's just very smooth white plastic with a very glossy finish, so it looks very nice from whatever angle you're viewing it at. We also get this very wide base that's curved and kind of replicates the shape of the monitor, and that metal finish also reflects the light from the LED indicator that's on the bottom of the monitor. I also like how that metal finish is picked up along the edges of the monitor itself. Now, to keep your setup extra clean, we do have some cable management which snaps onto the back of the stand, and it works pretty well. Now, like many LG displays I reviewed, this does have an articulating stand which allows you to raise it up or lower it down. You can also tilt it -5 degrees or plus 15 degrees, and we can also tilt it left and right if you need to level it out for your desk. Now, we do get two built-in 10-watt speakers with a nice rich bass. Although it's not the best sounding speakers I've heard, they are very loud, and they also work with Bluetooth. So if you want to connect your phone and use the internal speakers, you can do that. So let's go ahead and take a quick listen to see how they sound. Styrofoam, you can see the monitor sitting in the bottom of the box with its stand already installed. But the first thing I have to do here is remove the accessory box, and of course we're going to get to that in just a moment. Also at the bottom edge, like many LG monitors and TVs, we get a little joystick that allows us to bring up the on-screen interface so we can quickly navigate through it. That joystick also acts as an LED indicator to let you know when the display is in standby mode. And you can turn this light off under settings. So in terms of our ports, we have quite a bit going on back here. So of course we have USB Type-C, which is a quick charge connector. We also get two USB 3 ports, two HDMI 2.0 ports, a display port, which is version 1.2, as well as an audio aux jack. So getting down to the specs, this is again a very wide 21:9 aspect ratio with a resolution of 3840 by 1600. So this isn't as sharp as a 4K or 5K display, and it definitely looks softer compared to those displays. In terms of brightness, this peaks out at around 300 nits, which isn't as bright as the 5K ultra-fine display, which goes up to around 500 nits. So in terms of color depth, this is a 10-bit panel, so it can replicate sRGB over 99%. So this is a great monitor for professionals who need color-accurate displays for video editing or graphics. Now, if you're a gamer, this does feature FreeSync, which supports 75Hz refresh rates. We also have 1 millisecond motion blur reduction, so it speeds up the perceived response time of the display. So it noticeably reduces blurring and ghosting and virtually replicates a 1 millisecond response time. Now, when it comes to using this monitor, it's pretty much like using any other monitor, of course, scaled to this specific resolution. So that means you have a lot more horizontal screen real estate to open up apps side by side, which is fantastic for multitasking. But I think the main reason this is so popular among video editors like myself is that it gives us this full uninterrupted view of our timeline. So we get a lot more screen real estate to work with, so we don't have to spend as much time scrubbing through, zooming in and out on our timeline. It also gives us plenty of room for the app attributes. So we have all those tools and utilities on the screen while monitoring our video, so it's not as cramped as it normally is. Now, the only drawback here is that because I work in 4K, I can't preview my full project on this monitor. But the extra workspace definitely makes for a much more efficient environment to work in. The other nice trick to this widescreen monitor is that we do have a split screen mode, which means I can open up 2 ports at once. So for example, I can have something on HDMI and something else on USB-C and open them up side by side. So in my case, I just have 2 Macs plugged in, but you can imagine opening up Windows on one screen and Mac on the other. Now, for the most part, using this monitor with a Mac is just plug and play. It just works. You can also change the resolution, which is scaled by default by Mac OS. So if you want to change the scale up, you can do that under settings. Now, there are a few issues to know about. So for example, if you want to control the volume of the monitor, you'll actually have to do that physically on the monitor. You can't do it from the Mac. That also applies to screen brightness. So in the end, because I've been using so many different monitors, it's kind of hard to decide which one I prefer. But after using the ultra-wide display, I definitely prefer using this over the sharper 5K display just because of that screen real estate. That's really hard to give up. So the future is definitely in ultra-wide, but it could stand to be a bit brighter and a bit sharper than it is now. Alright guys, hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up to let me know, and I'll see you again in the next video.